If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
Justin, do a turkey sound for the intro. Yeah. In this special episode of Mind Pump. For the just Adam, what was that? The turkey died?
I don't play that one. The turkey died.
Yeah,
You shot the turkey.
Yeah, I was waiting for the...
Yeah. For the first 45 minutes, we do our introductory conversation. We start out by talking about Amazon, Walmart, and the changing retail landscape. Of course, everybody knows us as experts in fitness, but a lot of people don't realize we're experts in everything else.
We know business.
So we like to speculate all that stuff.
Yeah.
Adam talks about going cable-free. How long will that last?
It's an update for you guys.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm trying to jump in on that.
Then we talk about the California fires and the terrible air pollution. And, of course, our hearts reach out to all of you affected by the fires. We love you.
Yeah.
And then we talked about Vuori and how they basically, well, I mean, here's the deal. We had a Thanksgiving party. Everybody showed up wearing Vuori clothing. It wasn't planned.
Yeah.
That's because Vuori clothing is really cool. It's really nice.
And it looks best on this podcast.
It looks really, really good. That's true, Justin. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, we look the best.
If you want to check out Vuori clothing, go on their website, VUORI clothing.com/Mind Pump. If you do the /Mind Pump, you'll get 25% off your order. Then we talk about strength training for your heart. That's right.
Whoa.
New study shows that strength training is better for your heart than cardio. Boom. We told you.
Take that, cardio queen.
Then we talked about pulling out the Organifi Christmas blend for the holidays. I've already started my Christmas blend. This is where you mix the Organifi green juice, which is adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha and greens, and the red juice, which is a little bit more stimulating with rhodiola and beetroot powder. Mix them together. Christmas blend because of the colors. They're great. I invented the name. Case closed.
We're going to have people looking into this.
If you go to Organifi.com/Mind Pump, enter the code Mind Pump, you'll get 20% off. I'm really interested to see who came up with that. I swear to God. Then we talk about men going their own way. What are you guys doing? Come on, guys.
With an acronym and everything.
Yeah, so I didn't even know they existed. And then, of course, Justin talks about his new favorite pastime, furries.
Yeah, I love them. I'm going to go to one of those conventions.
Then we get into the questions. The first question was, what do we recommend that a total newbie in exercise with no conditioning or strength, how should they master body weight training first? In other words, if you've never lifted weights, should you become a master of manipulating your body weight before you lift weights? A little bit of a debate in that part of this episode.
Get a black belt.
Next question was, how do we start teaching someone how to squat? So somebody who's never squatted before, what are some great ways to get your body to the point where you can perform the king of all exercises, the squat? And the next question was, this person's fallen off exercise and nutrition for several weeks or months, so totally taking a long break, fell off the wagon. What's the best way to get back in? Do they jump right in, or is there a better way? And the final question, what's the best route for someone with a skinny fat body? This is somebody who's underweight or at their normal weight, but just has low muscle, high body fat.
Brings up fat.
That's right. That's
a new term.
Apparently there's skinny fat people, and then there's fat people.
There's those fats.
Yeah. Where should they start? What's the best way to progress them in their fitness journey? Also, it's the sale's almost over. We're coming up towards the end of the month now. Maps Anywhere is 50% off. Now remember, Maps Anywhere is our maps program. That can be done without equipment. So you can do it anywhere. You can do it at home. You could do it at work. You could do it on the road. It's also be redone. We reshot the whole program. The website's brand new with it. It looks awesome. Just go to mapswhite.com and use the coupon code WHITE50, WHITE, and the number 50 without a space at checkout for half off. And if you want to check out our other MAPS programs, we have a lot of them, just go to mapsfitnessproducts.com.
T-shirt time!
And it's T-shirt time.
Here it is, everybody.
Favorite time of the week.
All right, we got quite a few reviews on both iTunes and Facebook. The winners on iTunes are Joanna C., Joe, and a smiley face with a wink.
Joe.
And the best one of all, Justin loves cheese. I love Justin.
Oh, shit.
Wow, who's that?
I've seen that guy.
Yeah, he
And on
DMs me all the time.
On Facebook, we have Adam Batista Jr., Aaron Steffen, Daniel Isaac, Emma Doherty, and Hannah Harder. All of you are winners. Send the name I just read to iTunes at mindpumpmedia.com. Send your shirt size, your shipping address, and we'll get that right out to you.
We got you.
I love cheese and that guy.
I got it. Ha ha, I got it.
Where'd you got it? At Ross.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Is that
I love it. I love it. I got it at Ross.
who did open?
That's
Mervin's.
Oh, yes.
Mervin's.
Mervin's,
Yeah.
huh? Yeah, I got you, huh?
Okay, I got you, motherfucker.
That's right. I never win at this game.
What a dying business, huh? Like JCPenney,
All of them.
Mervin's.
I read
like,
I read an article
Nordstrom.
probably like 6 months ago on the brick and mortars. Like, it was crazy the amount of them. Like, maybe Doug can look this up. Like, how many brick and mortar stores closed in 2018?
Yeah.
It was
Bro, the second that delivery shipping is like within hours, like the second you can buy something online and it's at your house in an hour, they're all dead.
You know, these are big names too. Like,
That's the only thing that's keeping them alive.
I mean, how many companies is Amazon responsible for burying? Think about that.
But hold on, how many companies is Amazon responsible for
Well,
also
Building.
on the
building.
alternative.
Right. Oh, I'm not.
Because it's funny, people-
listen when I say that, I don't say it in
it's
like
balanced.
Negative way.
No, I don't say it in a negative
It's
way.
more than balanced.
Yeah,
It's
they've
actually they've brought more money to economy.
Well,
they've built more jobs.
That's change.
It's just they've changed it.
Yeah.
They've disrupted the shit
That's
out of
why-
it.
Yeah, that's why it's hard. It's hard to. So you can't live like if you're a business, you just can't live riding off of that same momentum. You have to always, check that and recreate yourself.
Here's where I say everybody needs to keep their eyes.
Wow, Toys R Us, Payless, Gymboree, Rule 21,
Gone.
Radio Shack.
Here's why I think people need to keep their eyes.
Ghost Town.
Walmart.
Oh yeah.
Walmart is such
Don't sleep on them.
a big, powerful company that I wouldn't be surprised if they weren't investing heavy money into creating their own cloud or Amazon something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I would say.
Could you look up Walmart? I would bet against
Do
that.
they have their
actually.
own shipping?
I think
Walmart's got. I mean, they're
still the number one sales in organic foods. They're still a fucking powerhouse. And if you were to add up all of the owners of Walmart as one person, they'd be worth more than almost anybody else. Yeah. They were. I don't know if they still are with where Bezos is now.
Don't you feel like retail stores are just going to be like warehouses now?
They're showrooms.
Showroom with like boxes stacked. That's
There's still certain things. I mean, I'm blown away by looking at all the construction at the malls. Like, have you guys watched Westfield? Like, it's still
like why?
Well, because
with the parking lots, especially.
no, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I still think that there's something about the experience of going to the mall, trying things on, hanging it. There's still like there's still something about that is still driving enough traffic for it to fucking build on it.
Dude, do you remember when I think it was Nordstrom or we were up in Palo Alto and they were showing us like plans, like this is like years ago, for basically scanning you and then being able to fit clothes to your model.
Yeah.
And like they're trying to do this all virtually and they're trying to get like innovative somehow in that whole process. But it's just I just don't see that, I don't see people really seeking going in store to get through that process.
There you go, Sal, you're right.
Well, Walmart is the best. They've had the best sales that they've had in a decade.
Wow.
So much for those worries.
And I think Walmart is looking very carefully at the online market and setting themselves up well to compete. They're that big and that powerful, and they have that much. They have shipping routes and stuff set up so well that when there's emergencies and shit, Walmart will get water to places faster than the government can.
Yeah.
And they have in some instances. I see this being pretty interesting.
That will be interesting because they weren't even mentioned in the book.
Because they're considered an old company, I guess, probably, right?
I don't know. Doug, you know, it'd be cool. Maybe you can find me a newer book on Walmart. I would love to read I don't even know who's making the decisions right now. I know that the family is I think there's 4 or 6 of them that are spread out over who owns Walmart, but I would love to read a book on what's going on with them and how they're responding to this new wave of, Amazon Prime and shit like that, how they're handling that.
Yeah, because let's say, how would the online market just completely destroy all brick and mortar? I would think, like you're saying, Adam, there's the whole experience of going to a store and trying things on and looking at things and touching them and getting them right then and there. So I would think shipping would have to be even faster, and you'd have to have the ability to try something on.
Well, this is where and they're already solving that problem with the trunks. So it's the turnaround time because we're still impulsive humans, right? We still want something when we want it right away. And so when that gets sped up, and we're getting there, right? Prime is already getting to the point where you could same day Prime something. So when you're able to think of an outfit or think of a brand or think of something you want to try and it can get to your house that day, you can try it on and send it back or decide to purchase it right then and there, that's when it's game over.
Huh.
Because right now, because I'm still guilty of this where...
Some people like shopping, though.
Yeah. Well, I think for those people, virtual reality, that's where it's going to happen.
People that like shopping, most people that really like shopping still haven't... I was this person who just hadn't experienced shopping online, or you didn't know how to navigate it. It's the old dog, right? It's the old way.
I guess you're right, because it's still shopping, right?
It's still shopping. Things. You still can go, and if it gets sent to your house, you can still try it on. You can still do all those things in the comfort. It's just the speed, the convenience, and the ease of it is what has to. And just this generation, we still have 50% of the people that are, the buyers that are 50 years old and shit like that, and they don't know how to function their iPhone still. You know what I'm saying? I have family members that don't even. I don't even know. There's so many things that work that your phone and your TV are capable of doing that your kids probably know that you don't fucking.
I just found out the other day my remote control's voice activated. I just literally found out. I had my TV for 3 years.
Yeah.
Oh, you hit that voice command button?
I had no idea. I'm sitting there trying to find a movie on Amazon, and I'm tick, 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 and my son goes, "Why don't you just talk into the remote?"
Yeah.
And I looked at him.
Dummy.
I looked at him like he was an idiot. Like, shut up, talking. What do you think this is? And he's
like a praise.
Fucking 2008.
Was this a genie?
Yeah, he's like, it's 2018, Dad. And I'm like, oh, is that what this button is? And you hit it, and you just say the word, and it fucking searches for you.
Yeah.
And I literally, my brain almost exploded.
Now, have you got good at using that? Because I have the same function, and I don't use it still either.
It's so easy.
It is.
You just tap it and talk. It just does it for you.
Yeah,
it's so stupid.
Completely basic.
I was the whole time, tick, 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 tick. It took me fucking hour and a half to find a goddamn movie. And my kid's looking at me like I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
A barnacle.
Yeah, like I'm an old
But you
idiot.
kind of have to know ahead of time what you want to see. You know what I mean? You can't like scrolling still takes I don't really know a lot.
No, it wasn't to scroll. It was because I wanted to look up documentary. But I got to type in the word documentary, which with the remote control with just the arrows would take you an hour and a half.
Right.
Instead of just documentary, and then boop, it comes up. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
I've been streaming now I'm on my third or fourth month consistently of I'm cable free, right?
Yeah. Oh, I just started that.
Oh, you did?
I'm new to this whole thing. I'm a little bit.
You'll never go back.
Yeah, I don't miss it.
Well,
but I'm at the same time I'm a little bit I feel like there's something that I'm forgetting.
It's the live sports that you'll miss.
Yes. Okay, so I have some knocks on it, okay? So here's where I'm at with it. Here's my update on cable free and full blown streaming. One, I have a brand new badass Sony TV that when you watch sports, it feels like you're on the field, but when you stream it,
it's not as clear.
Yeah, it loses the quality. Now it still looks awesome, still high def, it's still clear, but it still kind of comes in and out like it's not consistently perfect like it would be if I was running cable. So but it's bearable. It's now at least at the point where it's not choppy. When streaming was first around, a couple years ago with sports, it was awful. And I've enhanced the whole house. So the whole house has got all the I forget what you call them, but the Wi-Fi plug. I have plug in all my plugs throughout all the rooms. I have all these that enhances the Wi-Fi. So I get 5 bars throughout my house. So my house is set up to stream really well, and it still isn't perfect. The other thing that I'm finding as the months are going on, and I just did this the other day, as I've just paid for the ESPN app, is there'll be a show or something that I really want to watch. For example, I had quite a few people have been DMing me about the love of basketball, and they're like, "You'll love the documentary. It's awesome." Well, it's on ESPN Plus, and that's not a basic channel. It doesn't come with your basic streaming or whatever. So it's another app that I have.
It's the sports stuff because sports own. They own these networks, and so they control their information that goes out. But if you don't watch, it has to be worth it to you. If you're a big fan, what is it going to cost you? $150?
So what's the move? Let me ask you, because in terms of like Roku versus like Apple TV versus like just an internet TV.
So I'm on Sling.
Okay.
So I like Sling a lot because Sling, I used last night. You saw me watching football here, so I can be here at the studio, use my Sling app, and I can watch all my streaming that I've paid for here. Which is cool. So I like that. I really, really like that.
I just have a smart TV that has all the apps. So I can go to Netflix, Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
But you also got to pay for all those services, right? So you got 9.
I already have Amazon Prime because I pay for the Prime, so I get the free shipping. Netflix I pay for. YouTube is free, so I can watch YouTube.
And that's Hulu and all that other stuff.
And Hulu, and that's it. And you got everything you want. It's way cheaper than paying for the satellite stuff.
I'm still cheaper right now. I'm up to when you think of Amazon paying for that, paying for Netflix. I've got Apple TV, but that's once you have the gear, you're set up free on that. And then the Sling TV costs me $40 a month, so I'm still under my crazy ridiculous $200 and something a month cable bill. So it's still winning. Mm-hmm. But what I'm finding is there like a show like that was only on Hulu that I really want to watch. So I gotta do the Hulu app, and $9 here, then $4.99 here, and then before you know it, you have a collection of all.
That's what I'm worried about, because I definitely am gonna have HBO Go because I have to.
Right, HBO. Yeah. So I have HBO Go, so I pay for that. Like I can't remember. I think it's $14.99 a month or something. So. I'm creeping up there.
Yeah.
I'm getting up to that point, but it is still...
It's so competitive right now. I only see the prices going down. I see everything it's so competitive right now.
Well, you can drop them at a hat if you want.
What I see happening, and I think this is cool, which I really appreciate like this. Like when I bought the ESPN Plus, I had the option for $4.99 a month or $7.99 commercial free. So I like that. I like that you have this option where... Hey, if I pay $3 more a month, I don't have to fucking fast forward these 3-minute commercials before every single 20-minute episode or whatever that I watch. So I do love that. I like that we have this option to do that. I do like that I have access to it wherever I go. My main knock is I am a sports fanatic, and my sports just aren't super, super clear. So, but it is. I mean, I asked.
It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time before it just dominates. I don't see cable surviving at all.
No.
Or satellite.
Well, it aggravates me that I'm still running Comcast cable. I'm like, I don't want to like divorce you.
Plus their service is so shit. If something goes wrong or you need something done, it's garbage. It's terrible.
Yeah.
We'll be at your house between the fucking hours of 1 a.m. and like
we'll be there on Tuesday.
We'll be there in the vicinity of 10, 12 hours.
I'll just take the whole day off work.
And they always show up at the very beginning of the very end. It's never like in the middle of the time.
Oh, they're terrible.
Yeah.
No, screw them, man.
Some companies are getting better with that. So we've ordered. Every fucking week we've got boxes and boxes coming to the house right now because I came into a house that was empty, right? So we had nothing. So we're still purchasing every fucking week. And some of these companies, they now set it up where they'll call you 30 minutes. They'll text you or call you 30 minutes before. That's cool because Katrina and I both are 15 minutes from the house, 12 to 15 minutes from the house at all times, pretty much during the week. So we've been lucky and we've been able to, one of us run over there real quick.
Good. Are you guys getting all like sinusy and throaty from this air?
Oh, it's been, I mean, the past couple days, maybe a week, like of this air quality's been killing.
Bro, there was an article, I think I shared it with you guys, that Northern California at the moment, and I don't know if it's right now or when the article was posted, which was a couple days ago, has the worst air quality in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, worse than
China?
the worst that's measured in the world right now is in Northern California
No
because of the
way.
fires. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how bad it is. But I can feel it, man. I can start to feel it in my nose and my throat.
Yeah.
I feel like I have allergies.
battling
this is
it.
normally like this part of why this is my favorite months besides sports and the weather is
No
also
allergies?
no allergies normally right around now. But I feel like I have allergies because the air quality is so bad.
I read some article that said something like hanging out outside for an hour is like smoking 6 cigarettes or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
It was something absolutely insane.
that bad? Huh?
Yeah, it's really fucked up. Oh, you're gonna see.
We saw some really, bro. I didn't know. I mean, I know like it's bad, but I didn't realize some of the lot. There's some really tragic shit that's happening.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Very tragic, man. Katrina was showing me some articles, and I was like, "Fuck, dude, it just recently one of the fires got a retirement home." And like it went so they got almost everybody in there because they
They didn't get out.
Yes.
Oh, that's fucked up.
yeah, dude, it's really really bad.
Justin was
so.
saying that it was how fast was the fire moving?
Yeah, somebody was reporting that at one point it was like 8 football fields a minute or something at certain places up north. So like the wind took it and just it went so fast that like they have a protocol set up for how to get ahead of it, and they couldn't even compete with that. It was like way too fast, so it just swept through. I mean, yeah, the entire town and city. Like I grew up visiting my grandma up in Paradise, and that it's gone. Like
How crazy is that? A whole town.
the entire town is gone, and like my uncle's house was there too, and his house was burnt to the ground. So I feel for them, man. It's super tragic what's
yeah,
happened.
and there's a lot of controversy right now as to why they got so bad, and some people are saying that the clearing of the old wood and brush wasn't done because environmentalists want to protect certain habitat or whatever.
Like old growth.
Yeah, and then other people were saying no, we need to clear this out because it creates a fire hazard.
Yeah.
And so now that we've had this huge fire, now they're going back and forth.
You know
type
what?
of deal.
You know what tripped me
It's
out?
the blame game, right?
I watched this documentary. I wish I remember the name of it. I hope someone, I'm sure, in our forum or DM me what it was. But I watched this a few years ago, and they talked about that the fires are necessary. Mm-hmm. Like it's necessary for us to have crazy amounts of fires for the regrowth to happen.
Yes, the nutrients in the soil and everything.
Yeah, so it's kind of a weird situation. Like it's one of those things that our environment needs it. At the same time, it creates all this tragedy too.
Well, I know that's redwoods are supposed to be super resilient to fire, right?
They are,
because
yeah.
they've been exposed to them. So
Yeah, and there's
so,
not a lot. Well, typically there's not a lot of underbrush because like they can't get any sun because they dominate. And they're so tall. So yeah, and plus their bark is so thick and fire resistant. So, but it's definitely like everything underneath them could burn just as easily. So.
Speaking of movies, I watched Bohemian Rhapsody. I think is that the name of it?
No, it's rap. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Or is
that
it
what
Queen?
It's called. Yeah, it's Queen.
Yeah, I saw that. It's all about Queen. Was it good?
Oh, so good. The actor that played Freddie Mercury was brilliant. So brilliant. He looked like him. He moved like him. Are you guys big Queen fans?
Oh yeah. So did he actually sing or did they just dub his
That's a good question. I don't know. I couldn't tell the difference. So that's how good of a job they
that's
did.
cool.
But there were a lot of things I didn't know. Like I didn't know Freddie Mercury's family were immigrants. I thought he was just straight English, but his family came from India to the U.S. and I think he came to the U.K. and I think he was 18 when he got there.
Oh, wow.
So he's got an ethnic family. Fascinating story, and the way he got into the band was super random. He went to a bar, was watching this band perform, really liked them. He goes out to talk to them. Their band leader had just recently left, literally that day, to go to another band, and so he just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
It's a really, really great story. But yeah, he played such a good job. Great movie. I highly recommend it.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Hey, how'd you guys as kids? I know they were probably bored for our Thanksgiving get together.
Oh no, we had a good time.
Were they all right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody
they were
had a
fine.
good time. We enjoyed ourselves a lot. You guys did a good job.
My house never looked so small.
I know, right?
got that many
This
people
got
in there.
engulfed by all of us.
Yeah, no, there was a lot. Everybody was Viori'd out too. Did you guys pick up on that? Like,
Everybody was wearing
that wasn't even planned.
I
Like,
know.
everybody was literally decked to Viori head to toe. I thought,
They're winning.
It was all staged.
They are winning. I see more and more podcasts working with them too. You're starting to see Viore be all over the place.
Their gear is on point.
Exploding.
Again, kudos to Taylor. You know, Taylor's always up and up on the latest brands that are up and coming.
When does something not become cool anymore? Is it when everybody has it?
Yeah, it's kind of. I sure hope that doesn't happen. You know, like
because everybody's.
Well, I mean, Nike and Adidas. Everybody has Nike and Adidas.
They're still cool.
Yeah, and it's still cool.
All right.
So it's just. I mean, what you don't want to see is it like being like sold at like TJ Maxx or something like that. So that's like what happened to Ed Hardy, right? I remember like Ed Hardy was
once it makes it there.
Oh, that's it was just dead. Like I had a whole.
It became the douchebag.
People talk hella shit about that, like about Ed Hardy, because by that time it had gotten so popular. But when it was early on, and you didn't know, like if you didn't know even how to get it when it was coming out of LA, and you first got on it, it was badass. And t-shirt was like $150 for a t-shirt and shit. And so it was rare to see that many people
Which
rocking.
Already, you know, that's gonna have like, I mean, you can't like keep that up for very long. Like $150 for a t-shirt. You know, people
and the concept was really needed, because you had all these
tattoo artists
that were drawing it, and then they were printing it on shirts, and it was like that was new. No one had done something like that before. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And it made it so unique.
What a great point they did. They went from super cool to fucking not cool real fast.
Yeah, as soon as they sold out, as soon as they went to a point where they went from being this,
same thing with Tap Out.
Yeah, no Tap Out. Same thing happened to them.
I don't know if Tap Out was ever really. I think Tap Out was just.
They weren't that cool. But
Tap Out just was
the first.
They were the first adopter. Yeah,
they
were first to market.
It's like any other company that attaches to like a fast growing trend, and like if we had the first CrossFit podcast, for example, when they blew up.
Yeah, a better example.
We would have blown up.
Was like Affliction.
Yeah,
Affliction was cool. Affliction was actually in Nordstrom's before it blew up. So I had Affliction gear too when it was early on. Then UFC took it on. Then every guy who wanted to be a fucking UFC fighter was rocking it, and then it turned into a douchebaggery thing too.
Like, fuck, I don't really train, but I wear a shirt to make it look like I do.
Yeah. I'm about that life.
I've got a closet full of all that shit.
Do you really?
Oh, dude, it's just. And because I spend so much money on it, it's like I won't let it go. It's like maybe it'll like come back. Be fucking in 20 years.
Didn't you wear one of their shirts when we did that one bar video? With,
yes, I pulled it out for that. I pulled an Affliction or an Ed Hardy shirt out for that.
Yeah. No, but Viore's blown up. Because they're good, man. They look good. It's good stuff. High quality.
It's super stylish.
I mean, Justin's got. I still got to get the one that Justin's rocking.
This is my favorite right here because it's lightweight. It's like I can wear it because I can't wear like heavy sweatshirts very often. Like it's just too fucking hot. So this is just like easy.
It is form fitting on you too.
It is. You like that?
Very nice.
Rocking them.
Do you guys like that? Did you guys see that article I sent you guys about resistance training? And here, I'll read it to you. Oh, I love it. By the way, it's getting exciting because what we've been talking about for so long about how we think Western medicine is going to soon, at some point, recommend resistance training as the form of exercise for people, just because it speeds up the metabolism, which is great for context of modern life.
Yeah.
It makes you stronger, more mobility, balances out hormones, all that and the other. Well, a study came out. This was recent. This article came out on the 16th. That lifting weights is actually, ready for this, healthier for your heart than going for a run or a walk.
Ooh, interesting.
Yep. Scientists,
who would have thunk it?
Scientists looked at health records of more than 4,000 people and concluded that while both forms of exercise reduce the risk of developing heart disease, static activities such as weightlifting or press-ups have a greater effect than the equivalent amount of dynamic exercise such as running, walking, or cycling. So, and this challenges the commonly held assumption that so-called, cardiovascular exercises are of the greatest benefit to the heart.
Right, that's the gold standard, especially when you talk about the heart.
That's right. Strength training, it's the best. Now, ideally, you want to do a little bit of both, of course, right? You definitely want to do a little bit of both. But they analyzed cardiovascular risk factors like blood pressure, being overweight, diabetes, high cholesterol, all that stuff. And, resistance training. Now, why? Why is resistance training superior to those, to running or walking? It doesn't burn more calories, and this is why people will debate it. Is they'll say, "Oh, but running burns more calories." if I go for a run for 30 minutes, I'm going to burn more calories than if I lift weights for 30 minutes, which is true. That is true. You're going to burn more calories doing cardio for the same period of time. The difference is resistance training literally is training your metabolism to speed up. Cardio doesn't do that. And so if we were to compare running to resistance training over 30 days, then you may see more weight loss with just cardio. Although just exercise alone is a terrible way to lose weight, but that's a different conversation. But if we were looking at 6 months or a year, resistance training would kick the crap out of it because your metabolism's faster. And when you have a faster metabolism, you burn more calories all the time. Just sitting there, you burn more calories. Plus, it makes your body more sensitive to insulin, utilizing sugar better. More muscle gives you better lipid profiles. Hormones balance out, which is better for long-term health. So this is fucking awesome. It's literally a matter of time. There's going to be a revolution in our mainstream culture, and it's coming. It's going to happen within the next 5 to 10 years, I predict, where resistance training is going to go hardcore mainstream.
So you think when you go to see like the doctor and you get a checkup and you get a physical, like they're going to start adding in lean mass and like some kind of a body fat analysis?
They started talking about that already, where it's if your muscle mass and strength is actually a pretty damn good predictor of your health. So they're going to start adding that in to where you go in and they'll test. You know how they do the stress test on the treadmill?
Yeah.
They'll probably do a muscle test or a strength test on top of it.
Like a grip?
Probably either grip or something along those lines.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And you're going to see more doctors start to tell people, hey, I think you should do some resistance training, 2 or 3 days a week type of deal. I think we're going to start to see resistance training hit the mainstream like never before.
I wonder because, and I agree with you, but the only thing that I think is slowing it up or why it's even taking this long is because of the liability, right? For a doctor to say, go work out or you should work out, the risk factor of, this person comes back and says, my doctor told me I need to work out and I went and did squats and I hurt my back or I did something. And then
they're going to have to pair it to a program that they recommend.
You're right, but if you look at injury rates of people who run.
I agree.
Versus people who lift weights in the gym, running is actually more dangerous. Yeah. You get more injuries.
I agree,
statistically.
but a person who runs and ends up getting chronic pain because of running normally doesn't make the connection or realize that, and therefore doesn't track back to the doctor and say, you told me to go run, and now I have this chronic knee pain.
I think doctors are safe. I think they can say to people, hey, I think you should try resistance training, but I do recommend that you work with a trainer or figure out what you're doing.
You think so? Because sometimes I think that's the reason why it's taken this long as it is, because I think that the information's there.
Well, bro, think about it. How much training does a doctor have in exercise at all? Yeah. There's none. They have no training in it, and they have a very little on nutrition.
Well, I was going to say nutrition. I think it's more of like, they're just, I'm gonna tell people this initially, like when they first start, like you should, really pay attention to nutrition. You should really like lift weights and like, be active, and then they don't get people to ever actually do that, and so they like get sort of to a point where they're just fed up with it, and then they just like want to give them some kind of pill to alleviate pain.
They may get to the point where they start to partner with personal trainers, or they may start to partner with exercise specialists, and that may be down the line, especially as healthcare becomes more and more expensive. It may get to the point where they're going to go see the doctor, and the doctor's going to recommend them to go see, Kaiser, for example, is kind of forward thinking on some of that stuff, where they're starting to recommend the acupuncturists and therapy and whatever. I could see that. But my point is, forget all that. I think resistance training is going to have this mainstream revolution where everybody's going to start talking about lifting weights. It's no longer going to be just for people who want to build a lot of muscle and sculpt and shape and look ripped or whatever. It's going to be everybody who's going to be like, oh, you need to go lift weights. The same way, like look at if you get the average person right now, the average, 50-year-old or whatever, who's like, oh, I need to start working out. The first thing they think of is I'm going to go walking or I'm going to go get on a treadmill type of deal. Very, very much less often, I should say, do these people say, I should go start lifting weights, especially if they never have lifted weights. I think we're going to start to see that happen, where there's going to be a revolution because of all of this news. I mean, this right here was fucking crazy. Resistance training better for heart health than running and walking.
Yeah.
I've never heard anybody make that claim before. I could have made that case as somebody who knows exercise very well, but this is mainstream news that's reporting it.
Yeah.
That's massive.
I think simplifying it's the answer. I mean, if we could just make it about like, I think dumbbells are a pretty simple way to at least like get early adopters into it. Like, look, here's all you need, and then you get heavier dumbbells as you progress.
I think that the time is ripe for a program like that where people, and I think you're absolutely right, where people just use very basic resistance. Plus, we know that the average person, if you're trying to get the health benefits of resistance training, you don't got to get all hardcore with it. You don't need to go, silly with it.
Right. I agree.
Just the basics, the basic type of strength training. But we'll see what happens. I think it's fucking exciting.
I think it's earlier than what you think. You say 5 to 10. I think it's less than 5. I think it's going to happen. I think we're seeing it sooner. I think the only reason why it's not there is the liability issues. I think it's just doctors afraid to say something. I think more and more of them are putting, especially the generation that's coming up. I mean, we think about doctors right now that are 50, 60 years old that have been doctors for 20 years of their life or whatever, where the newer generation that's coming up, I think, is much more aware.
Mm-hmm. It just gives you, nothing builds your body in a way that makes it resilient towards the insults and stresses of modern life, which include low activity, poor sleep, kind of this low-level constant stress, that the availability of hyperpalatable food. Nothing gives you a better protection against those types of things, like being stronger and having more muscle. I was talking about this over the weekend, where our episode went up where we were answering the question about pregnancy and how to prepare yourself for pregnancy. And I know, just because I've been in fitness for as long as I have, I've known lots of women who've worked out with lots of cardio, who've done lots of aerobics classes or lots of spin classes or lots of hiking, and then got pregnant. And then I've seen how they've fared post-pregnancy. And they did a lot better than the average person, but they did way worse than the women who were lifted weights going into pregnancy. Like all the women that I know who went into pregnancy with muscle came out and recovered much, much faster, because it's like the best insurance policy is to have that active muscular tissue on your body if you're going to be inactive. If you have to sit down for 24 hours, you want to have more muscle on your body to burn more calories just being there than somebody whose body is so dependent on constantly moving to burn those calories. And that's basically, that's basically my point. So I'm a little buzzed off the Organifi Christmas blend. I'm liking it, dude.
I don't start mine until it gets closer. So it's too early.
You don't mix the red and green until
I do.
Christmas.
Yeah, till Christmas time.
That's when you mix
it's too
them
early.
together.
The Christmas tree's not out yet. Gotta wait till the Christmas
You got to
tree's.
keep up the standards.
Yeah, man.
They look good when you see them separately. Then you mix them, it doesn't turn into a nice color.
No, yeah, it's like a purple or a dark brown color.
But it is the Christmas.
It's not very
blend.
cute.
Christmas
Christmassy.
food.
Yeah,
No.
it's relaxing and stimulating.
Now, you guys haven't started decorating the house yet or anything like that. That doesn't begin yet for you guys, does it? Or
No. I usually do that probably maybe like a week after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So,
Do you guys go
we get a
crazy with
tree.
it?
Well, because we get like a tree right after Thanksgiving. That's like the tradition that Courtney's family kind of has. And so we've just adopted it. And so we go cut one at that tree farm.
Yeah,
that's close by from here. So yeah, that became a thing. You get like the Irish whiskey and then you saw up some fucking trees.
Did Organifi do anything like our company Skinny Dip did, where they did like a cool Christmassy thing that came out? Is there nothing that Organifi? I'm surprised that they didn't do anything cool.
I don't know. Well, I came up with the Christmas blend for them. So
Yeah,
you're welcome.
that was
You're welcome.
That was us, and that was me actually. You trying to steal credit for my shit or what?
What do you mean, the Christmas blend?
Yes,
That was your idea?
of course it was my idea.
Are you sure about that?
I'm 100% sure of that.
I'm glad all the episodes are recorded.
Yes,
Yeah, no, I kind of remember it being Adam. I don't know.
Yes.
Really? Well, you're
Yeah,
always
yeah.
going to agree with Adam.
Well, no, I'm not. That's
Always,
not true.
every single time.
Not true at all.
They're all recorded. We need to come up with. We need to.
Don't worry. I guarantee the form will
Jackie,
remember.
Somebody.
Jackie, who does our show notes, she'll know.
She'll know.
Yeah.
She'll check you.
I could have swore I was. The
Let
first one.
let the forum know, Jackie, what time it is.
Yeah.
This guy always trying to steal my thunder here.
Could you? You know what would suck
What?
is if I was right again. That would suck. I hope you're right on this one.
What were we just recording, or we weren't recording the other day, and
You got me on some.
Yeah,
It wasn't recorded though. Does it count? That only count. Dude, have you
bullshit.
You only save them for when we're recording.
Dude, so we post a meme in our Mind Pump Instagram page where people can ask questions that we answer on episodes like this one. And I've seen now this question several times, and I've never heard of this before. So have you guys heard of it's the MGTOW group?
That thing. I saw that.
MGTOW.
Questions.
MG what?
MGTOW.
Some kind of man's group.
Men going their own way. So somebody asked us.
Wait, hold on.
What does that even mean?
MGTOW.
I'm a man. I'm going my own way.
Yeah, so somebody has asked us several times, or people have asked us several times what this is, and we never answered because I don't know what the fuck it is. But finally, I looked it up, and on Wikipedia,
wow, it's actually.
It sounds like some gay dudes tricking a bunch of heterosexual guys.
it's actually
What?
Yeah.
What?
Like, hey man, go your own way, but we'll all go together. We'll make it happen. That's what it sounds like to me.
What? So what is it, Sal? I'm looking
So
right now.
I'm on a Wikipedia page.
Yeah,
on it. It's a mostly. It's an online community of men supported by websites and social media presences, cautioning men against serious romantic relationships with women, especially marriage.
See?
Yeah, and so these are men who
Red
have
flags.
vowed to stay away from women, stop dating, and not have children, and it focuses on men's
Celibacy?
self-ownership. No, some of them become celibate. Some of them,
What do the
like,
rest of them
say,
do?
just sleep with women, a bunch of women. Some of them have sex dolls. And some of them become celibate.
Okay.
Yeah.
These are the sex doll people.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. They're like all about male power,
Man.
but it's a little too far.
Yeah.
It's
Wow,
just a little. From what I'm reading,
this made Vice News to this group of straight men is swearing off women. They call themselves men going their own way, and they dislike feminism so much they are grabbing their balls and going home.
You know what this sounds like to me, and I don't know a whole lot about this group, but it sounds to me like a bunch of guys
Bunch of burned.
who are super angry that they can't get girls,
Yeah.
and so now they're like,
We'll show you.
I'm not
We're
gonna play anymore.
take our dicks over here.
Yeah, and then we're just gonna be.
Well, the website has pictures of like all these handsome men, but then when I look at all the guys that are protesting and doing stuff, not so handsome.
Yeah.
So you might be right.
I don't know, man. It's kind of weird.
Or they've been like burned in the past, and then they're all like salty about it.
Yeah, and they're like, screw that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with girls
with that
either.
Smelling good and all that. Forget about it.
Because then you can ask them, and you can be like, hey, how come you're 45 and you've never had a girlfriend?
Right.
Because I choose to.
Wait,
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson quoted on it?
What did he say?
MGTOW will never die. We will only multiply and continue to divide the real men from the.
He didn't say that.
It shows Jordan Peterson.
He didn't say that.
Shows Jordan Peterson tweeting it. I'm clicking on it right
team
now.
MGTO59er.
Google it.
whatever
You're the
is.
Google master.
I'm going to look this up so we could talk. Look at their slogans are save a male and stop a wedding. This is by the way, I'm reading this off the Wikipedia page.
Okay, please Google Jordan B. Peterson and the MGTOW, and you'll see a bunch of stuff.
And now here's why I don't think, if they do advocate that men don't get married and don't ever be with women, don't have families, the reason why I don't think Jordan Peterson would ever support that is because he is a big advocate of family and how that societies are
Whatever
built.
happened to that?
Yeah.
Well, this is actually other people putting Jordan. This is funny. Like this, they're using his name, but he's.
Oh, they're misrepresenting him 100%.
Right.
Yeah. He called them, Peterson called them pathetic weasels.
He did.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot more accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds like a lot of angry dudes. That's sad though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. It just sounds pathetic.
You know what it is? It reminds me of it's like, okay, you live in this society and let's say you're a dude and you don't have a good job. You're not that charismatic, whatever your case is, maybe you're awkward and you can't get, like, women aren't paying attention to you. Mm-hmm. And so you're just pissed off. And then what you start to do is you start to blame society because you're like, why does society makes it that I have to have a good job and I have to do all these things to attract women? Why can't women just like me for who I am? That's not fair type of deal.
Yeah.
And okay, I don't know. I guess it isn't fair, but that's just the way it is. It reminds me of like when women will get angry. Why don't guys like me just because I'm 300 pounds? Well, I mean, maybe it's not fair, but that's just also reality. You might not, you might not attract the opposite sex, but then they're going to get mad and start their own club.
Yeah, that's like the awkward conversation. Like, I'm going to point something out.
Now that we live in this time where you can connect to people.
That's what I'm saying. They can find each other.
Yeah, all the idiots can find each other so much easier and faster. Like before, 100 years ago, like everyone has an idiot in their town. But now, like every idiot in every town can find each other, and they actually have a group now.
I just imagine
they actually have a voice and some power. Like
they all have like a theme song. We're men, we're against the world. And they're just marching around.
Right, and back in the days, it'd be one asshole marching downtown. Everybody would be like, "That's the crazy guy in town." Yeah. But now he can reach out to the thousands of towns,
say no to vagina,
and find all the other idiots.
Whoa,
and together,
calm down. Yeah,
a group of idiots now.
I don't. Voice. That's a good point, Adam, because now you have these furry conventions that are thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah, and they're in Santa Cruz, dude.
What?
I keep like every time. I swear to God, every time I go downtown,
you're trying to get me to move out there, man. I don't know, man.
No, it's just this one like restaurant. They love this restaurant. I think they like put like a bowl out for them to eat out of or something.
What?
I don't know what they're doing there. That's what they do. They do weird shit like that. Like
So what do you see? You just see them walking around with their outfits?
Yeah, they're in these furry animal costumes, and then like I'm walking with my kids, and they're like meow and like get the fuck out of here, like leave me alone.
What?
Yeah, it's weird.
Don't they have sex with each other? I saw this documentary where they have sex with each other. They do?
Yeah.
Do they actually have sex or
like in their suits?
No, they have. So some of these suits where where their privates have like little
flaps.
Yeah, little flaps and stuff, and so they can still, but they stay in costume.
Yeah, dude, doggy style.
That's wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
just a very, very small part of me wants to try.
It's kind of interesting. It's an interesting idea.
It's a very, very small part. Not a lot of me, just a little bit.
Why? Why do you want to try that?
Just out of curiosity.
Right.
What are you going to dress up as?
I don't know. I haven't thought that far into
I almost took home that green screen suit, you put it over your face and everything.
Just show up as the green screen guy?
Be like, hey, honey, just like pantomime my way.
So hold on a second. What would your furry outfit be?
I think I would be a bear and Katrina would be like a little bunny.
What?
You remember?
That reminds me of Swingers.
Yes, remember Swingers? That
you gotta kill the bunny. You got these big fucking claws.
Patting it around back and forth.
You're just patting it around. No, man. You gotta realize you got these fangs, man. You got these big ass claws.
Do you remember that show?
Yeah, I do.
Tell me that's a great movie.
Great.
It's a classic. I'm gonna watch that now.
So you'd wear
my favorite movies.
A furry bear outfit, and you'd want to have sex with. But you're not talking about going to a convention. You're talking about at home with your girl.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'd.
I feel like I'd be more into kangaroos.
I don't really care to hang out.
I don't know what that means.
You'd want. You should.
Yeah, you have to pick something, right?
You could be a kangaroo. Put Doug in your pouch.
Yeah.
You just walk around with Doug in your pouch.
It makes sense.
He pops out and says hi to people.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little Joey.
Here's the Yay. Here's the thing though that would be weird is when people wear these furry outfits, they don't act like people. They start to try to act like the animal.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Which makes it weird.
Yeah, well, like when we walked past them, like some of them were like pawing at us, like, I'm just like, oh. It's like sends chills down your spine.
Have you been with your kids when you see them?
Yeah, and I immediately shield them.
Yeah,
I'm like walking around them. Like
how do you
this,
explain that to your kids?
Well, that's what I'm saying. What if your girl puts on a cat outfit?
They're like, what are they doing? I'm like, they're doing things. I don't know.
And it's kind of hot, but then she's like, meow, meow. I'd be like, all right, stop. You've gone too far.
Yeah,
I was down until you acted like a cat.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe you're right.
You know what I'm saying? And what would you do?
Yeah.
Someone tricks you. That's what happens. You go to a furry convention, you lose your girl. There's another exact same costume, and it's some fucking 45-year-old dude.
Oh, God.
Oops.
You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why they have the little opening.
Thank you, Internet.
Yeah.
This Quaz brought to you by Organifi.
For those days you fall short on getting your organic veggies or whole food nutrition, Organifi fills the gap with laboratory-tested certified organic superfoods to help give your health and performance the added edge. Try Organifi totally risk-free for 60 days by going to Organifi.com. That's ORGANIFI.com. And use the coupon code MINDPUMP for 20% off at checkout. First question is from Chelsea Michayo. I know you preach weightlifting, but would you recommend a total newbie with no conditioning or strength to be able to master bodyweight training before adding any sort of weights?
I think
Yes.
it depends on the exercise.
Well, for the most part, yes.
Yeah,
I mean, you absolutely should master squatting your own body weight before you load, for sure.
I mean, that's a pretty, I think, obvious
That's not
progression.
It's not as obvious as you think it is.
Well,
I think a lot of
which-
people go right into, because they hear that you should be lifting weights and squatting is great for building your butt and it's this and it's that. And so a lot of people get under the bar and, they just don't have the prerequisites to do a barbell squat.
Well, that's what I mean saying. What does she mean by master body weight training? Like become a master and expert of all body weight exercises, or because it's all about just starting where you're at.
Well,
and for a squat, obviously you can't squat with weight unless you squat your body.
Right. You shouldn't, or a hinge, right? So if you were to deadlift, like if you can't hinge without any weight, you shouldn't load. If you can't squat, properly, you shouldn't load. I mean, we shouldn't load anything that we can't perform, and it doesn't need to be, I don't know if I would say, I don't think perfect is the right word as much as like in a controlled, safe manner, right? If you can't squat down to parallel or below parallel, controlled safely with just your body weight, loading is crazy. If you can't hinge at your hips in a deadlift fashion without any weights, then loading with weights is definitely not ideal. So I think it's really, and this is a lot of why Prime was so important to us when we created it, and I continually say it's the most important thing that we've ever created, is because there's an assessment inside there that really you should have to be able to perform these three basic movements safely before you start to load it really heavy. And so that's the idea, is to help this average person go, am I ready to deadlift? Am I ready to squat? Should I be doing movements like this? You go through this test, and if you fail miserably, then there is a bunch of movements and exercises you should be doing to correct that first before you get into serious weightlifting.
It's just understanding your body and understanding the recruitment process, and having control over your joints, and being able to really thoroughly understand the difference between a squat or a hip hinge or any of these sorts of movements that, like, a lot of times people just drop into these movements and don't realize that they've never actually they've never been taught the mechanics of a lot of these movements. And that's where I find a lot of coaches have to go back and sort of regress and reteach a lot of these techniques. But I mean, I'm all for trying to teach, the mechanics, with load when it's appropriate, after they show good control and they can tense up their muscles in order to withstand that type of force.
In some cases, weights may be a better place to start. So I'll give you an example. Like if I get a deconditioned 55-year-old woman who hasn't really ever lifted weights or worked out with resistance, and she comes and she hires me, I do my assessment. For squats, obviously, I'm going to assess her, and we may start off by just having her sit down and stand up on the bench. That may be her first squatting type movement. But let's say we go do some type of a chest press.
Yeah, or rows.
Or rows. I'm not going to do a body weight exercise. Yeah. She can't do a push-up.
No, that makes sense.
She can't even do a push-up off her knees. In fact, she can't even do an elevated standing push-up just because it requires a certain level of body stability to maintain good posture.
That's a very good point.
So I may have her lay on a high incline, hand her a couple of really light dumbbells, and keep my hands near her elbows or her wrists, and help move her through the movement. Or I may even put her on a machine in some cases, not always, but in some cases.
Well, I guess
I would say more upper body, yeah.
Or
it depends on the exercise.
No, compound.
Pulling.
Yeah.
If it's a compound, if you're moving multiple joints in a movement, the risk is increased. Therefore, those type of movements I'm going to teach and perform with no weight first to make sure that they can move freely and controlled and safely through that movement. If it's a single joint isolation type movement, the risk is very, very low, and so weights are completely fine, right?
But even compound, like a press is compound, right? Because your elbows and shoulders. But I wouldn't take a beginner and have them necessarily. It depends on the person, but it would be easier to progress them from, like a lot of my older clients, I would do presses with dumbbells and eventually move them to push-ups. So it was actually a progression to the body weight versus the other way around.
Just because of the stresses on their wrists and everything else.
Wrists and their shoulders and get them stronger in their core so they could support their body as they're doing an elevated type push-up off of...
Because you could have both, and I agree with that approach, but you could also have them elevated on a bench and doing push-ups. And so there's ways of having a regressed approach with that too.
I think the key is that you have to start with an exercise or a movement that you have good control. You have good control and stability over. That's where you start.
Yeah.
So that's the first exercise, and that may be extremely basic. Like I said, many times I'll take a client and I'll have them sit down on a bench, and I'll just have them stand up, and then I'll have them sit down, and I'll have them stand up. Sometimes that's even too much. Sometimes I'll have a client do that, and I'll see their knees move all over the place, and they don't have good stability. And then what I used to do is I used to take pads, and I'd put them on the bench, and I'd make the seat higher and higher until I got good stability. And then the progression would look something like, squatting off these pads, and then the following week I'd take a pad off, and then the following week I'd take another pad off.
I guess that's what matters, is it really depends on this newbie, just how far I have to regress. Because there's also some newbies that, if they've played sports before or they have good body awareness, that you can teach a movement and they pick up the mechanics very fast. And then there's others that, have been around for a very long time, but then have just never strength trained, aren't athletic. The proprioception just is not there, and they completely break down mechanically. And then I have to regress it, like you're saying, Sal. And because I'm visualizing a lot of the clients that I trained for many years, and many clients, I was squatting off of a bench, just because that also too allows me to focus on one or two things, like what's going on with their feet when they're doing that, because they have the safety of a bench. They're not loaded with a barbell, and we're just perfecting the getting up and getting down. And believe it or not, a lot of people don't even get up out of chairs using the right How many times do you see somebody roll to their side and use their hand to push up?
It's so funny we're talking about this, because it's like you'd think this was a pretty general question to answer, right? But when you get somebody coming in for the first time, it literally could be anything. I've had people like that, just the compensations were so dramatic that it is about teaching them how to just get up and down from the floor.
I'm trying to think of a good way to communicate this to our audience, because sometimes I hate when we say it depends, because then maybe someone's going to leave listening.
I
to
know everybody says that about.
They're going to be like, well, what do I do then?
But fuck, dude, that's the truth.
You got to hear the real deal.
Well, here's what I would say I think is a good starting point for anybody. So if you're listening to this right now and you're like, well, where do I go? This is what you do. When you go to the gym, I want you to do exercises that are barely challenging. What I mean by that is an exercise that you have to focus and concentrate on just to be able to get perfect, but not too much. Start there. As you get stronger, challenge yourself just a little more each time. That's it. Just a little more each time. And you're progressing each time. If you go to the gym and beat yourself up, it's not going to make you progress any faster. Just think of it as a scale. So today I'm doing this, and it barely challenged me. Next time I work out, I'm going to barely challenge myself even more than that. And before you know it, you'll be progressing very, very well.
I'll tell you something and for me, I feel like the squat and the deadlift and overhead press are the three big ones that this is the greatest risk is at. And so, yesterday or Saturday this weekend, I had my old clients that have been with me for years and years. I still hold these free classes for them, and all we literally do is for the entire hour we go through all these Prime Pro movements that we have. And it's really just to get these people that are, all of them are north of 55 years old, reconnected. They're not training consistently. The only time they're probably working out or doing any sort of movement exercise with me. So there's no weights involved. There's not even a lot of body weight exercise. There's only one body weight exercise that I do at the very end, and that's squatting. But I first spend the first 45 minutes to almost a full hour doing all these priming movements. We've got the zone 1 test I do with them. We've got the 90-90 moves, the lizard with rotation, the combat stretch. I'm really addressing all the major culprits to the breakdown in like a squat and getting them kind of re-waking up all those muscles that are dormant, right? And then I take them to squat, just their body weight, but I do a tempo squat with them and I talk to them through it. So we all do 10 body weight squats really slow, and I start off doing with them so they can see the tempo and they're moving really slow, and I'm challenging their depth. But while I'm challenging their depth, I'm also pointing out and making them aware of what I see going on as I'm walking around the room. And I see lots of pronating of the feet and the knees collapsing in, or the chest falling over and the back starting to round. And I'm just kind of coming by and touching each of them individually and saying, oh, keep the chest up, or, oh, force your knees out as they want to cave in, or pay attention to how your feet feel. And I'm addressing all these things. That is somewhere that I would spend a lot of time with somebody who is really broken down mechanically before I would even consider. Now, if I had these people on a very regular basis, I could probably make some really good progression with them and then eventually barbell load them. But since I only see them once every other week or so at best, when I see them, I know they haven't been doing anything, and I know this is the best thing that I could do for them, and I know that I would be doing them a disservice if I did what I did in my 20s, which would be take the same group of people and do warrior ropes and do, skipping and ladder work and, all these exercises that I know would get them sore, but I know isn't going to help them with what they care about most, which at that age, it's chronic pain. It's just like, I just want to fucking feel, but I don't want to feel 60, Adam. I know I'm 60, but I want to feel younger. And that to me is me helping them with just learning how to move their body. So I think spending time doing stuff like that first as a newbie is really important.
Next question is from Sarah Haney. How would you go about teaching someone who's new to weightlifting how to squat? Would you have them perform other exercises to build leg strength first, or would you use bodyweight squats to work on form before adding any weight?
It's one of my favorite ways to progress someone to being able to do a squat that I learned much later on in my career, and I actually learned it from the physical therapist that rented space out in my facility, which I learned a lot from working with her. She was an excellent therapist, very, very good at correctional exercise. And I would pay attention and watch how she would progress people through exercises. The way I used to progress people to doing a barbell squat I'd start with something that looks something like a bodyweight squat. But what she did is she actually would start with lunges. And she would start with a supported lunge. And what she would do is she would have a client hold on to a bar or something, a pole or something stable that they could hold on to. Then they would get into a split stance, like they're going to do their lunge. She would put a thick pad on the floor where the person could bring their knee down towards, like they were going to kneel on it as if they were doing the lunge. And she would have them do these split stance lunges while holding on to support. And then the way she would progress them is little by little, she'd have them slowly stop using the support so that they could do just a standing stationary lunge. And once they could do the stationary lunge really well, the transition from that to a squat was usually pretty good. It was pretty easy. I never did that in the early parts of my career as a trainer because I always thought the lunge, for whatever reason, was I always thought squats started first,
right,
and then you went to a lunge.
No, it's really smart because taking somebody in a unilateral sort of position and really working on, because just being able to balance and stabilize the joints through that range of motion is everything, right? So now if you have more stability when you're in a split stance on both sides equally, and then you apply that now, in a bilateral type of a movement, just the extra support will then allow for a nice transition to then load the back, I would imagine.
Well, it's also brilliant because if you take somebody who's never really squatted and you get this newbie into the gym, and let's just say they're somewhere between the ages of 20 and 50, they have created significant imbalances in their lower body, especially in the legs. Like if you were just like you're right-handed or you're left-handed, you have a right or a left side that you're dominant in. And you have all these little subtle things that you do your whole life that you don't pay attention to. When you get out of the car, you swing, and then you get up with one leg more than the other leg. Like very few people swivel out of a car, plant both feet, neutrally drive up and they get up. You don't even notice these little things. And when you do that for years and years and years, you start to have this really dominant side. Well, now you take that same person and you put them in a squat with both feet planted on the ground, and then you drop them in a squat. The body will go to its default. It'll go to that strong dominant side, which is why it's really common to see an asymmetrical shift when you see squatters the first time, because that it's natural for this stronger, more dominant part of the body to help them up out of it. Now, splitting them into a lunge, which, by the way, this exact video that we're talking about right now, Danny just shot and will go live this week. So this is really cool that Doug put this question up here, was because Danny just did this. This will go live. You guys can watch a really good tutorial on the split stance lunge, how to start it up and get going. But I think that independently or separating them into a lunge is just a single leg squat. And so when you do that, it really points out the weaker side. And I always recommend to clients that are if you're listening to this and this is you that we're talking to, when you do that exercise, start with the weaker side. You'll see right away, you'll notice one side will be weaker than the other, and really work on the mechanics of that weaker side and the strength of that side, and always mirror the stronger dominant side to that. So if you can get 6 reps, let's say, of the lunge on the weak side, and then after that 6th reps number 7, 8, and 9, your mechanics start to break down, the leg starts to shake, or your knee caves in, stop at that 6, and then when you go to the dominant side, and you could easily get 9 or 10 of them, don't do 9 or 10, do 6 of them, mirror the perfect form of the weaker side so they catch up and even
So
out.
now the other thing, though, like when we're transitioning to, barbell squats, we really need to consider the shoulder mobility.
Huge.
So, I mean, that's the whole next sort of piece to the puzzle that, so and one thing in Prime that we added with the stick and why that's so helpful is just the contact points are essential for maintaining that type of tension throughout the entire range of motion throughout your rep. And so to be able to also like pull my shoulder back and keep it set in good position where I can do that on both arms, and I could figure that out too, just like which side has more mobility and which side doesn't.
That's a very common issue when you start with a new squatter, is that they can't stabilize their upper back and have good positioning with the bar where it sits on the mid trapezius area where they are able to grip the bar fully. They squeeze the shoulders back and there's no problems. So a lot of times you have to focus a lot on not just the lower body strength and mobility, but you're also focusing on their ability to pull their shoulder blades back and down, their ability to rotate their arms so they can hold on to the bar, their ability to rest the bar on their back without it hurting. There's a lot of time that's spent on that.
Yeah, because I mean, you have to like keep your core like connected that entire time too, because if your shoulders aren't mobile enough too, like we're going to try and compensate any way necessary. And so a lot of times you'll bring those shoulders forward, you'll lean forward into it. It's going to throw the entire bar path off.
Yep. And it's funny because I have a lot of experience training people in advanced age. And the cool thing about working with people who are older is that you really learn how to train beginners, because with someone who's older, not only are they a beginner, but they're also older, so they have more potential issues and more muscle imbalances, and so you have to be very, very careful. And so I learned really, really well during this period of time of training this population that you probably want to get really good at lunging first. It just makes I can actually take somebody who is deconditioned and I can have them hold on to something. I can put them in a split stance, put a foam pad on the floor where their knees can hit the ground, and then just tell them to try to slowly kneel and then slowly stand back up. And it's actually easier to do that with somebody than it is to get them to try and squat. Believe it or not, it's actually an easier progression. And so I'd get people really good at this lunge, and then when I'd get them really good at the lunge with both sides, where they're able to stay straight with their hips and everything's bending right, and they're able to come up and down real good and controlled without having to hold on, then I'd move them to a squat, and then there was a learning curve there as well, but then the squat was a lot faster, and I noticed that my progression was faster when I would do it that way versus just focusing all on the squat alone and avoiding that split stance exercise. So much carryover.
I like to take so from there, I like to go and I have a client straddle like the squat rack or a pole really close and just body weight squat and have the pole where they kind of walk themselves down and then get down in the deepest position that they can hold themselves in. And then from there, I kind of critique where their posture is down there. So in other words,
so are they holding onto the bar?
So no, a pole. So the pole is like between my legs, and what that does too is it forces their chest upright.
So they're squatting down while holding themselves.
Right. So they walk themselves down the pole, and then when they're down the pole, I can, because what most common, like what Justin is saying, is we tend to round the shoulders and then collapse forward. Where if I'm kind of straddling a pole, the pole's so close to me, I can't fall forward or else I'm going to run into the pole. I can walk myself all the way down in that squatted position, and then down there where I'm holding the pole, I can tell them to pull the shoulder blades back, chest up nice and high. I can address their feet, and they have support there, so they can hold themselves there, and then I can critique the knees, the feet, the chest, the shoulder blades, and really get them to understand this is the position you want to own at the bottom of this squat. I like to do that for a while and get them to really understand that before I progress, obviously, something on their back.
Next question is from BA Fit. What's the best way to get back into lifting and eating seriously after falling off for several weeks or months?
This is a mistake that probably for 10 plus years I've made in my lifting career. And that is, it's really hard to take the athletic mindset out of the workout for me, and it was really difficult for me to take that out. Meaning that, I had this, athlete's approach where even when I'd get back into basketball, anybody who's played sports, the first week back to playing sports is the most intense. It's like hell week, and you push yourself through, and it's just miserable, and you got to get through it because once you get through it, you'll be better. And, my dumbass knows better that's conditioning for a sport, and that's not how to train the body properly. But yet I still fall into that trap of, okay, it's my first week back. I know it's going to suck. I know I'm going to be hella sore. I just got to push through. I just got to get through this. And I did that for a really long time until I started to really piece it together that, wow, I could do half the work and my body would actually progress just as easily. I wouldn't be crippled sore for that first or 2 weeks, and it made it very easy for me to progress my program. And so I always have to remind myself when I fall off for a couple weeks or whatever, just literally, this is me right now. I had like 10 or 14 days off in a row for me, which is pretty long for the days. And right away, I know that just 2 weeks off, coming back at it does not take that much. I'm doing body weight type movements. I'm doing 50% less of the load that I know I'm strong enough to do. Mm-hmm. And even today, I'm sore as fuck. And I'm like, damn, I still overdid it. So less is more in this situation. And it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this and I've known this for, I always tend to overreach a little. So you'd be surprised how little you need to do when you get back into starting again.
There's a sweet spot. When you're exercising, remember, you're sending a signal to your body for your body to adapt and change. So that's number one. And the harder you work out, the potential for that signal to be louder goes up. But that's not the whole story. That's definitely part of the story, but that's not the whole story. The whole story includes your body's ability to withstand the stress, recover from the stress, and how your body perceives the stress. So if you go into the gym and you just beat yourself up and hammer yourself well beyond what you need to do, far beyond it, your body's going to perceive it as too much of a stress, as too much to recover from, and all you're doing is healing and you're not recovering. And so what you end up doing is you end up getting really sore, and you go to the gym and you don't progress. You're just making yourself really sore and damaged. So you have to balance them out. And so the irony of it is you actually don't get there any faster if you just go back full bore. Yeah. You actually slow down your body's potential to progress.
Yeah, and I could totally identify and with what Adam was saying as far as turning that athlete switch off. That's been such a process for me to figure out, and coming back in, because you get this sort of panic, oh man, it's been so long since I've worked out to where now I really have to make up for lost time. and just teaching myself over the last few years how to, like, you really can't, as long as you're in the gym and you're starting to work out, like, you can't do too little. Like, it's almost like I challenge myself to do less each time. Like, I don't know anybody that's gone and gotten back into it and it's been like, oh, wow, I don't know, that really wasn't enough.
Right.
Because it's so easy to overdo it. And so I've been trying to challenge myself mentally to kind of be in that space, and then watch what happens as a result the next day. How do I feel the next day is really what I amount my efforts towards. So
yeah, it's a balancing act, and it doesn't get you there any faster. And I want to sell that hard because I know my own mentality. And if I took time off, if I took 2 weeks off or 3 weeks off or months, and I went back to the gym, even if I knew it would only get me there 3% faster, I would do it, because it's like, fuck it, I want to get there as fast as possible. But it's not like that. Just because you worked out harder doesn't mean you're going to progress faster. In fact, it's the opposite. You'll progress slower, again, because your body now is dealing with too much of a signal, too much stress, too much damage. You're just healing. You're not adapting. Yeah. You want your body to look. Here's a good example. Let's forget working out for now. Let's think of another analogy, and this is one of my favorite analogies that I'm going to use it again. Is your skin's ability to tan because of the stress from the sun. If you've been in the basement for months and you've gotten no sun at all, you're going to be pretty pale and pretty white, and you're going to go outside and think, I need to get a tan. Now, what's going to get you tan faster? If you go out and get the right amount of sun exposure so that your body starts to tan a little bit and then you went back inside, or if you go and sunburn yourself, which one's going to get you there faster? Now, the sunburn obviously is not going to get you there faster because you've gone far past your body's ability to adapt, and now your body just wants to fucking heal. Now you've got a terrible sunburn. The skin's going to peel off, and what's going to happen after that? Are you going to be more tan? Nope.
Over again.
You're going to kind of start over again. You can't even go back out in the sun the next day because you got too much. Versus going out and getting the appropriate amount of sun exposure, which might be 5 minutes because you haven't had any sun exposure. Same thing is true for exercise. If you want to get there faster, you got to do it smarter, not harder.
Well, I'm going to give everybody, like, this is obviously there's going to be an individual variance with everybody, and if you've been off for 2 weeks or you've been off for a year. But I've kind of found my sweet spot when I've fallen off for a while and then I come back on, and I know it's more than enough work, and I would have never thought it was before. And what I do is I for sure am doing like a full body approach, following like an anabolic type program, and I do one set that is like the warm up movement set, slow, controlled, super lightweight, and then one challenging set. That is it. That is literally all I need. I need one set to perform and warm up the movement. I add a little bit more load. It's nowhere near my max. It's nowhere near even 80% of what I could handle. It's just enough. I know it's going to challenge my body, that it'll be difficult, and I do one set of that, and that is enough. It's crazy.
It's funny. Yeah, I simplify the fuck out of it. So I just will take I'll just focus on going through the mechanics of the squats or going through the mechanics overhead press, whatever it is, like, to where, like, my workouts before would be, hour and 20 minutes long, to where it'd be like 30 minutes of just like 1 to 2 movements where I'm just like literally just focusing on getting my body all to organize the way it was before.
Yep.
Next question is from Trent Tunes. What's the best route for someone with a skinny fat body composition should take when starting their fitness journey?
Build muscle. Get in the gym. Your goal is to build strength, build muscle. It's going to make getting the body fat off your body much easier. If you enter into, so skinny fat, let me just define that real quick. Skinny fat is somebody whose body weight is probably where it should be or maybe lower, but they don't have a lot of muscle and they still have a lot of body fat. So even though their weight isn't heavy, they've got too much body fat and too little muscle.
They're soft.
Now, if you go to the gym and just go with the intention of trying to get lean, and you diet with the intention of trying to get lean, you will burn body fat, but you also will, because your body adapts, slow your metabolism down and may actually reduce the little muscle that you currently have, which is going to set you up for a very difficult battle down the road. Now, on the flip, if you go in and you focus on building strength and building muscle, which may require you to eat at maintenance or a little bit above maintenance calories, the scale may go up a little bit. You may gain a few pounds on the scale, but what you'll find is you'll have a faster metabolism, which will make the fat loss much, much, much easier as you continue down the road with your progress.
I also think I'm going to make an overgeneralization right here, and I know some people are going to try and crucify me for this, but I'll just tell you in my experience, this is what tends to be more common and more beneficial for this person. So when I think of like skinny fat, I think of myself. When I think of fat, I think of Justin. And what I mean by that is our body types, and that's not a knock at Justin.
Fat.
Or you're fat. I'm skinny fat. Yeah. And what I mean by that is I have the body type where if Justin and I both decide, we're over lifting weights and we're just going to live off of Jack in the Box for the next month or so, we would look totally different. Justin would blow up and look fat. I would get skinny fat, which I would lose my arms, I would lose my legs, and I would just get this pooch belly that hopefully I could still hide underneath my t-shirt. And here's what happens with someone like this is
I get skinny.
You get skinny. You just get skinny.
I just lose everything.
You're more like my body type with
probably.
Skinny body fat.
Probably.
So I've seen these body types. I've trained hundreds of both of these body types.
Jolly.
And in my personal opinion, getting these people started back, the people that are the fat tend to benefit more. I tend to start them sometimes in a phase 3. Now this like a higher repetitions, just kind of moving the body more. They need to burn some additional calories. Their body just touches a little bit of weights. They tend to build a little bit easier. So I'm not really training them as hard and heavy first. The clients that are the skinny fat ones like me tend to respond really well to the lower rep range. They need that to build some muscle. And so I tend to go the lower rep range with them. That's just my personal experience with those types of body types. The skinny fat people tend to really benefit from the strength training. That's not to say that a fat person would not benefit from the heavy strength training. I just think they're different body types, and that somebody who is a skinny fat person really challenge that person to train in the lower rep range.
Those are the new. It's no longer ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. What are those called? Somatotypes.
Yeah.
You just made up new somatotypes.
Fat.
Skinny fat.
Us fats need to band together. Like a blob, just one big blob.
I think being and the grass is always greener on the other side. I'd rather be fat.
Yeah.
That's just because I would, of course, my insecurities.
I can build, but what kind? What kind of material am I building?
For me, I don't care who I get as a client in this particular regard. If I get somebody who's really, really heavy or someone who's skinny fat or whatever, I'm always going to recommend that they start to eat healthier. And then I'm almost always, and this depends on the person, but I'm almost always trying to get them stronger to build a little bit of muscle. It just benefits everybody. Now, I think what you're saying, Adam, with the person who gains easily, they tend to gain muscle a little bit easier as well. That's a bit of a stereotype, but like you said, an overgeneralization. But it does tend to be true. The skinny fat people tend to have a difficult time building muscle. But what I find with them is, here's the big difference, what I find between the two of them. And maybe this is the difference between you and Justin. The difference might be that if you guys stopped working out and said, fuck it, Justin would just eat way more. You would just eat shittier, not necessarily way more. You see what I'm saying? You ever notice that with skinny fat people? You look at their diets and they're not eating a lot of calories necessarily.
Right.
They just have slow metabolisms.
Like drinking a lot of soda.
And it's crappy
like
food.
My brother.
The real heavy people tend to do that, but also eat a lot of calories. So I think that's where the big difference, tends to be. And then, of course, there's genetics on building muscle. But no, I would take this person and I'd be all about building up your metabolism. I would reverse diet them with, healthy food slowly. I'd build up their metabolism. I'd like to see the scale stay the same or go up. So you could come to me as a male at, like if you're 6 foot guy and you're 175, 180 pounds, but you're skinny fat, I'd like to see the scale go up to 185, 190,
right.
And then and get you strong, and then slowly start to see what happens with the cutting. The other thing that I've noticed too with this group of people, that we're overgeneralizing, is when I focus on building muscle with them, they tend to just get leaner. I've had quite a few situations where I haven't had to cut them with their diet. I just had to clean up their diet, focus on building muscle, building strength. And then what we'll do is we'll look at the scale and be like, oh, it's, went up a few pounds. Let me do a body fat test. Like, holy shit, you've lost like 6 pounds of fat and gained 8 pounds of muscle. And so, and I'm making numbers up, but the scale went up a couple pounds, but you've actually lost fat this entire time.
I think you hit it right on the head, because this is exactly what
That's what happens to you, right?
Yeah, that's what I have to. When I get back into the routine of things, both nutritionally and training, I have to increase my intake. That's part of it. Yeah, I'll be skinny fat, so I'll have lost a bunch of muscle, put on some body fat, but I actually have to add to the diet. I have to get more meals and eat more food, because exactly what you're saying is true. When I am off the wagon or I fall, what I tend to do is not get adequate protein. I've said this on the show for a really long time. Why I am such a big fan of still utilizing protein shakes when needed is because that's what I do. Is I end up not eating a lot, and then the little bit of food I do eat are bad choices, and then that's where I end up getting that. I end up getting a little bit fat. I end up putting body fat on because I'm making poor, unhealthy choices. I'm still over consuming the calories I need, but I'm not feeding my body adequate protein and nutrients to hang on to the lean body mass I have, and so here I get
and
this.
You're not lifting weights on top
Meanwhile,
of it.
I eat one Krispy Kreme and you can see it.
Can you really?
Some bullshit.
Didn't you say when you were growing up you were skinny?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, for a minute.
You just changed it.
For a minute.
So like junior high.
Yeah, he's like between second and
So
third
I hit
grade.
like puberty, and then it was just like boom. I started gaining all this muscle, and then when I wasn't like quite as like ridiculously active, it was like, okay, now I have to manage this.
I wonder what we would all look like if we all were just couch potato, typical American diet.
I know exactly what I would look like. Yeah, I've flirted with that enough times to know exactly what that looks like. I get the skinny fat.
I look like Santa Claus.
Right away, I lose. You know what it sucks is
Santa Claus.
I lose all the size on my arms and legs, and then my face gets fat. So I get like this like bobblehead fucking look with fucking no arms.
No.
Yeah, it's an awful look. I mean, I'd rather be fat all day, dude. Give me some.
God, do you imagine how old I would look if I did exercise and eat right? You'd be like, who's this guy? Grandpa DeStefano. You know what people I always see in the gym who fall in this category of skinny fat are the cardio kings and queens.
Yeah.
These are the skinny fat people. These are the people that if you've ever worked in a gym for longer than 6 months, you know exactly who I'm talking about. It's a group of people that comes in. Every gym has them.
They're in the calorie burning race.
And they come in and they do, between 3 to 5 days a week of cardio, and that's it. And they come in and they get on the cardio machine and they go really fucking hard with the cardio.
Getting a sweat is life.
And for whatever reason, they still have high body fat percentage, but their body weight isn't that high.
They still jiggle.
And the guys will have just like this pot belly. There was this one dude that used to jog in my neighborhood, and I remember this was years ago. My son was like 4 or 5, and this guy would every morning when I take my son to school, we'd see this guy jog by our house, and he had these really skinny legs, really skinny arms, and he had this big
rotund belly.
Yeah, and my son was like, he's what's he doing? I'm like, oh, he's exercising. What's exercise for? And I explained it to him, this, that, and the other, and he goes,
it's not working for this.
Yeah,
guy.
and he goes, why does he have a big belly? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so I tried to explain to him the difference. It was too young for me to break it down, but you do see that. You do see that quite a bit with the cardio fanatics. Is the whole skinny fat, body composition type deal. So lift weights. That's always the answer, isn't it?
Lift, man.
Yeah, that's always the answer. So check this out. We have a bunch of free guides that we wrote for different goals. Some of them help you build your arms or work on flattening your midsection, building your legs. Some of them are talk about, getting your squat to go up. Anyway, they're all free. They cost nothing. Just go to mindpumpfree.com and download them. You can also find our personal Instagram pages. Different information than what you'll hear on the podcast or see on our YouTube channel. So you can find my page is Mind Pump Sal on Instagram, Adam is Mind Pump Adam on Instagram, and Justin is Mind Pump Justin.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.